Hi, in this video, we'll continue to look at how the portfolio return and variances will change depending on the different characteristics of its component stocks. So from the previous video, we have already seen the relationship between the variance and the return on a graph. Okay, so it's going to be this U-shaped curve if we picture it on a graph. Okay, so in this video, we're going to change some of these numbers here. Okay, so if we change the returns here, the difference on the graph will be not that drastic. Let's change this 0.2 into 0.3 and see we're basically sort of expanding the graphs here on its vertical direction here, right? Because now we have a wider range of returns. So let's revert it back to 25%. So it's going to be narrower. So let's use something that is more extreme. Let's say 0.5. So this thing is going to expand higher, right? So let's do 25% for the rest of the video. Now let's change the standard deviation for a little bit. So we've already seen the change in the graph by changing one of those standard deviation. So let's continue to change it a little bit. So for 0.2, we can increase it to 0.3. So now it looks like something very symmetric here. Okay, and then we have 0.4. Let's do it again. So we have a lot more dominated portfolios here, right? So let's just do it to 0.2 again. And similarly, you can change the sigma for stock B as well. You have 0.5. Then it's going to be looking like this. We have a lot more dominating, but not dominated portfolios here. Okay, so let's do 0.3 again. Okay, so none of these changes will, sort of change the overall shape of the curve in a very drastic way. But this thing here, the correlation coefficient, will change the shape in a very drastic way. Okay, so we used 0.2, and remember, rho here can only take values between -1 and +1. So let's take a look at the extreme values for this. Let's take 1, for example. Okay, now the curve is no longer, well, a curve, but now a straight line. Here, we're basically having a linear combination for stock A and stock B because the correlation coefficient is the maximum we can get. So the result for this graph is going to be a straight line here. Okay, so starting from 100% stock A and ending at 100% stock B here. So we have a straight line looking like this. So let's decrease it a little bit. So let's say it's 0.9. Now it's curved out a little bit. Okay, if we continue to decrease that, so it's even more curved up. Okay, so let's decrease it to 0.5. Now we can see that dominated portfolios here, right? So let's further decrease it until 0. So what happens here? So I have 0 correlation, which is two independent stocks here. Okay, so the graph is going to look like this nice looking U shape here. So during the calculations for the variance, we're basically having 0 terms for that 2 times rho, because rho is 0 in this case. Okay, so is that the smallest number we can do? No, we can still continue to decrease the number. Let's say it's negative 0.2. Okay, so as you can see, the apex for this graph is going to continue to move to the left. So what is the furthest or the farthest point it can move? So let's decrease it to 0.5. It's even closer to the vertical axis here. So the smallest number which we can get is going to be -1. Okay, for this thing here, we have a very special point. Okay, so for this portfolio, we would have some return. Okay, so if you look at the chart here, which is going to be 19%, but with 0 variance. So a portfolio with 0 variance or 0 risk is basically risk-free. So it tells us if we can find such pair of stocks, so they have exactly -1 as their correlation coefficient, we can basically construct a risk-free portfolio here. Okay, but that's very extreme. So it's very unlikely you would find any two stocks that moves exactly the opposite way. So their risks sort of offset each other, but then it still provides you with some return here. Okay, so the key here is that you can play around the numbers, but the most important one is the correlation coefficient here, right? So it will drastically change the shape of your curve right here, while the others, well, not so much. Okay, so remember these special points here: -1 and 1, and of course 0. Okay, so for 0, it simplifies your calculations for variance by quite a lot, but for 1 and -1, you should remember these two shapes. Okay, so for 1 is a straight line, and for -1 you can always have something here, okay, somewhere here, that gives you a risk-free portfolio. Okay, and I'll see you in the next video.